Carol?
This question comes from Mona Diane, and it concerns two indicators, Warren, that you have discussed in the past about the general level of the stock market. The first one is the percentage of total market cap relative to the U.S. GNP, which you have said is probably the best single measure of where valuations stand at any given moment. This indicator is at about 125%. That is the ratio of total market cap to U.S. GNP. And that's about what it was when Warren talked about this back in 1999, just before shortly before the bubble broke. The second indicator, which you mentioned in a famous 1999 speech, that subsequently became an article in Fortune, is corporate profits as percent of GNP. You had said at the time that number ranged between 4% to 6.5% over a long period of time, which I believe was 1951 to 1999. Well, as of Friday, it is about 10.5% according to the St. Louis Federal Reserve site. That is way above the range you had mentioned. Are the current levels of either one or both of these indicators a matter of concern for the general investing public?
Yeah. Well, it might be the second figure, which is the profits as a percentage of GDP, might be a concern for other segments of society, because what it indicates is that American business has done wonderfully well in recent years, and though it says what a terrible disadvantage it has because of U.S. tax rates and a host of other things, the facts are that American business has prospered incredibly. And the first comparison is very much affected by the fact that we live in an interest rate environment which Charlie and I probably would have thought was almost impossible not too many years ago. And obviously, profits are worth a whole lot more if the government bond yield is 1% than they're worth if the government bond yield is 5%. And so it gets back, and Charlie in that movie talked about alternatives and opportunity cost. And for many people, the opportunity cost is owning a lot of bonds, which pay practically nothing, or owning stocks, which are selling at fairly high prices historically, but they weren't selling at those historic prices with interest rates like this. So I would not, I look at those numbers, but I also look at them in the context of the fact that we're living in a world that has incredibly low interest rates, and the question is how long those are going to prevail. Is it going to be something like Japan that goes on decade after decade, or will we be back to what we thought was normal interest rates? If we get back to what are normal interest rates, stocks at these prices will look pretty high. If we continue with these kind of interest rates, stocks will look very cheap. And now I've given you the answer, and you can take your pick. Charlie?
Well, since we failed to predict what happened and what exists now, why would anybody ask us what our prediction is in the future?
Yeah. Incidentally, the one thing I can assure you, Charlie and I, to my knowledge or my memory, I can't recall ever us making an acquisition or turning down one based on macro factors. That and we talk about deals when they come along, but whether it was See's Candy or whatever it might have been, the Burlington Northern, we bought at a terrible time, general economic conditions. But we don't talk. It just doesn't come up because we know we don't know what the next 12 months, 24 months, 30, we know we don't know what that's going to look like, but it doesn't really make any difference if we're buying a business to hold for 100 years. What we have to do is figure out what's likely to be the average profitability of the business over time and how strong its competitive mode is and that sort of thing. So people have trouble believing that. They think we talk about it. We think any company that has an economist, certainly has one employee too many. Charlie? Yeah. Can you think of anything rude to say that I haven't said?
Well, it would be hard to top that one.
Okay.
This question, which is a little bit offbeat, comes from Jordan Shapoff of Melbourne, Australia. Mr. Buffett, in the foreword to the 6th edition of Benjamin Graham's Security Analysis, you identified 4 books that you particularly cherish. 3 of these books were authored by Graham himself, and their influence on you is well known. The contributions of the 4th book to your thinking, however, that book was Adam Smith's The Wealth of Nations, published in 1776. What that book meant to you is seldom discussed. So my question is, what did you learn from The Wealth of Nations, and how did it shape your investment and business philosophy?
Well, it doesn't shape my investment philosophy, but I certainly learned economics from it. And my friend Bill Gates gave me an original copy of it. I was able to study it as Adam Smith wrote it in 1776. There's just, if you read Adam Smith, and if you read Keynes, Ricardo, and if you also read that little book we've got out there called "Where Are the Customers' Yachts," you will have a lot of wisdom. I forgot to mention, I was supposed to mention too, that we didn't want to put it on sale earlier because it would have given away the movie, but we do have Berkshire Bomber underwear out there, or sweatshirts, or whatever it may be. So Fruit of the Loom has those, and we have Fred Schwett's "Where Are the Customers' Yachts" book, which contains an incredible amount of wisdom in very few pages and very entertaining. But if you want to not only get a lot more wisdom but appear more erudite, you should read The Wealth of Nations also. Charlie?
Well, yeah, guys is really worn well. I mean, he is rightly recognized as one of the wisest people that ever came along. And of course, the lessons that he taught way back then were taught again when communism failed so terribly, and people like Singapore and Taiwan and China and so forth came up so fast. The productive power of the capitalist system is simply unbelievable. And he understood that fully and early, and he's done a lot of good.
I took an idea of his on the specialization of labor, and he talked about people making pins or something, but I applied that actually to philanthropy. I mean, the idea that you let other people do what they're best at and stick with what you're best at, I've carried from mowing my lawn to philanthropy, and it's a wonderful thing to just shove off everything and saying somebody else is better than that, and than I am at that, and then work in the field that's most productive for you.
You didn't do your own bowel surgery either.
No. I'm not sure I have any reply to that. Okay, Jonathan.